Just as an update in the news, it's really mentioning to my 11th grade honest talk yesterday. There's an interesting Gemara, I think it's about Bacho, where a man dies and he comes back and asks him, what did you see in Shemei Shemayim? He said, El Yonim Lamata V'Tachtonim Lamala. He said, I saw Olam Hafuch Ra'iti. Sometimes I think we're living in Olam Hafuch. I can't really make sense out of the way that the world is developing. That now the United Nations and the world community has the audacity to associate ownership in Marat HaMachpelah and Kever Rachel, that they want to create at a Muslim site. You have to understand their history. But now to decontextualize it altogether and say that this is only Muslim sites, Kever Rachel and Marat HaMachpelah, and now the Kotel. Who would ever imagine 2,000 years no one ever even had the slightest notion to question Jewish sovereignty and ownership and association and relationship with the Kotel? Now for just extreme pernicious and nasty political motives, the Kotel is becoming part of the revered Muslim sites. And now, boys and girls, you're it. You're gonna have to pick up this fight. Whether it's on social media, whether it's on college campuses, you got to stay engaged and stay informed because Am Yisrael really needs you. But today I want to speak about something really a little bit different. If you look at the Chumash as a narrative, starting from Adam HaRishon and watching the character development of Adam, Chava, Cain, and Hevel, to some degree we can do Migdal Bavel, but we can go there from Noach, Ishto, Banav. You hit a new reality when you get to Abraham and Sarah. See, Adam and Chava were the first to be confronted with their behavior, and their response was, both of them, was to completely disconnect their reality from their behavior. As if to say they can't be culpable, they're not going to be held accountable, they're not responsible for their actions. Eating from the Eitz Hadat, Chava said, Hanachash Hishiani Ba'ochel. It was the Nachash's fault. Adam HaRishon said, Haisha Shenatata Imadi. It's not my fault that I ate from the Eitz Hadat, God. It's your fault. You were the one who provided my wife. My wife gave it to me, therefore your responsibility. So we find right away with a confrontation, looking for some responsibility for action, Adam and Chava unfortunately fail. Fail miserably. It's not my fault. Cast the blame externally. Put it on somebody else. I have no responsibility. Next generation, Cain and Hevel. Cain kills Hevel. Hevel hachicha, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, giving him a chance to reflect, to respond. His answer is, Hashomer achi anochi. Am I my brother's keeper? As if to say, why are you asking me about my brother? I have no responsibility, no accountability, no connection whatsoever. He has his life, I have my life. Don't press me on what my brother is doing. The next step, Cain begins to confirm, and he concedes. And he understands that he had a role in the demise and the death of his brother. We see a little bit of a change, but unfortunately generations moving slowly, still not taking responsibility. The next step, we have Noach. Noach takes responsibility. We finally have someone who takes responsibility, who looks at life through a lens of justice and right and wrong, who refused to participate in Vatimalei Haaretz Hamas. But then again, Noach only takes responsibility for himself. Working on the teva, building it, forming it, shaping it, creating it. He gets the animals on the boat. But all those years that he was working on the teva, he brings nobody else with him. And in fact, Noach, as the Meshech Chachma points out, starts off as an Ish Tzaddik Tamim Haya B'Dorotav, and he ends up as an Ish Adama. Because although he was a righteous man, he took no responsibility for others. As the narrative continues and the development of character grows, and we start from Adam and we go through Noach, we finally reach a point in this parasha, Lech-Lecha, where Abraham and Sarah stand up and not only take responsibility for themselves, but for the first time in the history of humanity, take responsibility for others. It matters to them how others are behaving. It's important for them to see the success of others. It's significant for them to inspire others to be better. They take ownership for community and for society. It's not just about their own lives, their success, their happiness, their satisfaction. It's now look outward. How could we make a difference in the lives of others? You see Abraham from the get-go. The first thing he does when he's told, Lech-Lecha miyartzecha mi'moladcha beit avicha ha'aretz asher areka, he takes Lot with him. His nephew takes responsibility for others. When they hear, by Rashi comments that Nefesh asu b'charan, that Sarah and Abraham were both engaged in the type of outreach to create a civil, more humane, a reflective community. When Abraham hears that Sodom will be destroyed, he knows that the people in Sodom are evil. He knows that there's nothing but a hostile, corrupt environment. Yet he advocates for them. He searches for justice. He beseeches HaKadosh Baruch Hu to find something good within the community and use that as a rallying point to save humanity. We are now cast in a whole different mold, starting from this point forward. We have the model. Abraham Avinu probably learning from Noah, and learned from Cain, and learning from Adam, and learning from Chava, recognize that the world is not a place where one gets sequestered and cloistered and isolated, but the world is a place for us, Avdal Shemra, to make a difference. To control our environment by influencing others to do good. Taking responsibility for yourself is step one. Taking responsibility for others is a mandatory, obligatory step two. And that is the difference between Noah, who starts off as an Ish Tzaddik and ends as an Ish Adamah, as the Meshech Chachma says, and let's say a Moshe, who starts off as an Ish Mitzri, Hitzil Otanu Min Haroim. He was just considered an Egyptian man, and where he ends up his life is Ish Elokim, a man of God. Because like Abraham took responsibility for himself, but like Abraham made sure he had responsibility for others. Now, there's a lot of news that comes out around the world, and some of it is really negative and worrisome and troubling. From time to time, you come across a story that really drives home everything that we stand for. There's a story that appeared this last week in the Israeli press, and it's a story about a lone soldier who made Aliyah while his parents are living in the U.S. And his mother, the boy, after graduating high school, said that he wanted to go fight in Sahel because he wanted to make sure that he would protect the nation of Israel and protect Yerushalayim. That's a quote. As he got to Israel and he entered what's called the Bakum, Basis Klita, V'miyun, the place where Tzahal tries to determine where you need to be placed, he said, Rak Golani. I am only going to go fight in the Golani Brigade. Sure enough, he ended up in the Golani Brigade. He worked very hard. Comes with an enormous amount of self-sacrifice, some degree of suffering, enormous challenge, and he reached the point in his army path that he was on what was called the Masa Kumta. Very long, arduous, difficult, complicated run/hike marathon, carrying gear and soldiers, giving those Golanchikim a real test of pushing themselves to the limit. At the end of this Masa Kumta throughout Sahel, parents and family members wait for the Chaylim to finish to celebrate the receiving of their beret. It's really one of the greatest moments in the life of an Israeli soldier because it recognizes the accomplishment and the ability level that soldiers grow into. So this mother, who lives in the United States, was very concerned. She knew that her son would be finishing the beret ceremony after running this Masa Kumta, and she wouldn't be there. And she had no relatives. And the poor boy, when everybody would be received by all their family and friends, he would be literally a lone soldier. So the sister wrote a post on her Facebook page saying, my son Yonatan Hadar is a lone soldier in Golani, who came to serve in the country out of pure Zionism and love for Israel. He is finishing his beret march at the Golani Junction, ... If you are in the area and want to make him happy, because we as parents can't make it, we will greatly appreciate it. It's an emotional occasion in which a soldier's extended family greets him. Share this post so that he knows that there is no such thing as a lone soldier. So she did. The article continues. The post managed to cross oceans and borders, and the nation of Israel answered my sister's call. People came from all over Israel to be his family. Masuda came all the way from Dimona with a platter of cakes. Ms. Zilpha came from the village of Migdal with a pot full of Kurdish kubet for him. A district judge came with a few lawyers from Haifa. Police Commander Shlomo Avitan, the commander of the Natzeret Police Department, came with 10 of his policemen. A whole family from Yehuda and Sharon came with their children and grandchildren, along with the many, many, many good people. But Yoni knew nothing of that show that awaited for him, because he was still marching, holding his friends on his stretcher. When he arrived at the ceremony, he stood shocked. During the brigade commander's speech, he praised Yonatan Hadar and the people who came out in masses to support him. And Yonatan Hadar writes the following in response. There are no words to express what I went through today. My parents couldn't come to my graduation ceremony at the Golani Brigade, so they made a simple post on Facebook to support me. It went viral. And before I knew it, over 200 people came to greet me with food, presents, and a lot of love. These people that never met me before nor heard of me, but they heard there was a lone soldier that didn't have anyone coming for a ceremony. I just want to say thank you to all of these special people who really love their nation. As the saying goes, we are strong as we are united, but as weak as we are divided. Especially in these tough times in Israel, it's beautiful to see everyone come together, and it meant a lot to me. Thank you for your support. Am Yisrael Chai. This is one story. People didn't need to come out that day and travel hundreds of miles. They didn't need to bring their families together. They didn't need to stand in unison with strangers, not even knowing what this boy looked like. But they understood responsibility. They understood accountability. They understood that in Am Yisrael, we are responsible for one another, not just ourselves. And by doing so, they demonstrated the greatest characteristic of us, of Am Yisrael, what Haman said, Yeshno Am Mifuzar Mufurad Ben Amim. They are all separated from different parts of the world, but they Yeshno Am. We are a great people. We have that obligation to learn from Abraham. We have that obligation to learn from Yonatan Hadar and all of those people who came. We have responsibility not only for ourselves, to make sure we refine our characters, to make sure we strive for goodness, to make sure we excel in school, to make sure we demonstrate and comport ourselves with respect and with dignity, to make sure that we take responsibility for our actions. We also have to take responsibility for our community. And we live in a community, we live in a school. And if people see something in school that needs to be corrected, if there's water that's spilt on the floor, to call a maintenance man. If there's food left on the cafeteria tables in the dining hall, to clean it up. If there's a little child who requires help and assistance that you see in the elementary school, to ask how you can be of assistance and be of support. That's the refinement that we expect from our people. And that everyone needs to be Abraham, everyone needs to be Sarah, and everybody needs to be Yonatan Hadar.